Welcome to Reddit After Hours. This is r/PettyRevenge, where OP's mother-in-law actually gets revenge against her own son for being a liar and a cheater. Our first Reddit post comes from Coffee Beans 2836, titled, "Mother-in-law kept guilt-tripping me for not eating her Indian cooking, so I started bringing my own dishes and giving her the same treatment. Now she's suddenly, quote, not hungry too." So, my Indian mother-in-law thinks that she is the best cook in the world and that everyone, including her son and daughter-in-law, should beg for her cooking. Well, culturally, I'm not used to a lot of Indian food because of the spices, but I will try to eat the ones that I can enjoy. A lot of times, I'll politely tell her that I'm not hungry or that I'll munch on some, but sometimes that's not a good enough response for her, and she'll even start guilt-tripping me with, "So you don't like my cooking?" or "Everyone loves my food, why don't you?" My significant other will usually jump in and stop her, but it always puts me in a weird spot since on day one of meeting me, she's been doing this, and she told me point blank that she doesn't like Chinese food. I'm Chinese, for context, and it kind of threw me off because there are so many varieties of Chinese food, and for her to just say that she hates the entire category just kind of seems odd to me. So I recently started bringing over food that I made whenever visiting her and telling her how excited I am that I get to cook for her and that I hope that she likes my cooking. She usually brushes it off, saying that she's not hungry or that she'll eat it later. I turn the tables on her, looking sad and asking her why she doesn't like my cooking. It's very entertaining to watch her try to make excuses that she knows are BS. She hasn't asked me to eat her stuff since then, so I guess this petty revenge is actually working. How the tables have turned, OP. Good job. Our next Reddit post comes from Xbox Gamer 2122, titled, "You live by the speakerphone, you are shamed by the speakerphone." I work in a cubicle farm. There were 4 rows of 4 cubicles. There was one coworker who never used the handset on his phone. Every call he made or received was made using the speaker. He also tended to shout into it, even though it wasn't necessary to raise his voice to be picked up by the microphone. There had been a few complaints from some of us to him, but he ignored all of them. On Monday morning, he called the doctor's office to report that he was having urinary troubles. He made an appointment for the next morning at around 9 a.m. Then he called our boss to say that he'd be coming in late tomorrow. All of this was broadcasted via his speaker and loud voice. I talked my wife into calling his extension the next morning, and while he was at the doctor's office, to leave a message using a script that I had written out for her. She did, and left the message on his voicemail after blocking her caller ID. When he arrived at the office after his doctor's appointment, he started listening to his voicemail messages on speaker. The first was work-related, but the second was the one that my wife had left for him. It said something like, "Mr. Smith, this is Jane from Dr. Smith's office. We need you to come back here today if possible. You were supposed to give us a urine sample, not a semen sample." He quickly punched the end call button, but it was already too late. The whole cube farm erupted in laughter. He knew that it had to be one of us, but didn't recognize the voice, and he never used speakerphone again. Modern problems require modern solutions. That was great, Petty Revenge, OP. It's just so rude to just use speaker, for no reason, and just interrupt everyone else's day so everyone else can hear your conversation. Come on, bud. It's 2025. Put in some headphones. Our next Reddit post comes from Dr. Deadpool, titled, "Evil Teacher Fails Me for a Sound Clip That She Found Repulsive, so I Put It Everywhere." For context, this occurred way back in my junior year of high school, which was around 2002. I was in a computer class, and it was a very general class where we learned how to type, but also got a little familiarity with stuff like Adobe Photoshop and Music Studio. The teacher who normally taught the class had a baby prior to the semester that I took the class, so a substitute teacher had to cover her entire maternity leave. The substitute was a complete grunt. The fun and entertainment that I got from the original teacher's typing class that I had taken the semester before was now replaced by an evil woman who expected us to be professionals at programs that we had only just learned about. For context, no one in the class had a higher than a B average. She just completely dumped on my first Photoshop assignment because she didn't like the subject matter. For context, it was a mech robot with a Gundam-inspired energy sword that I drew and colored by hand, taking me nearly a month to complete. I used Photoshop to clean up some of the rough edges and make it look even more realistic, a feat that should have been awarded with high remarks, but because she just hated the subject matter, it got a D+. The next week, we started our segment on Music Studio. Her assignment was to create a music clip that sounded weird or funny. I found a synth wave in the program labeled Final Crash and played it to myself, which was a descending crescendo followed by a final beat in an upbeat chord. Using the software, I created a loop of this sound clip and reversed it, playing the sound forward and reversed in repeating patterns for about 15 seconds. My fellow students found the resulting music to be hilarious, but the teacher absolutely hated it, even going into dry heaves at the sound of it. She gave me a 0 on the assignment and threatened me with detention if I ever played the sound again. I was already on the brink of failing my class prior to this because of the way that she was grading my other work. So this was the determining factor for me to take my revenge. I didn't mind a few detentions from the teacher either because I disliked her, and if it meant making her life a living hell for a few weeks as a taste of hell that she put me through, this was going to be worth it. A friend of mine worked for the IT of the school as part of his aspirations to get a computer science degree. I gave him the offending sound clip and he notified the teacher that he needed to perform an update on her computer during her lunch break. My class was after her lunch, so I got to see my revenge in all of its glory. My friend went into the sound files of her computer and replaced all of her notification sounds with a 3-second piece of this sound clip. Every time she received an email, instant message, or any other warning from her computer, this sound would play at nearly maximum volume. The added bonus being that to help prevent students from tampering with teachers' computers, they needed to input an IT password to access the control panel and turn it off. It was an IT password that they didn't share with substitute teachers because of access to grading and transcripts. The substitute teacher had a complete meltdown after just 2 emails from IT about the computer update. She sent me to the office and tried to have me expelled because of this sound. Our principal just laughed her out of the office. The substitute teacher unplugged her computer and took emails and instant messages on her phone for the entire duration of the final 2 weeks of the class. The other students in my class used to play the sound clip from their computers just to annoy her. We even managed to get the sound clip playing during the morning announcements, which I can only imagine made her throw things at the television. When the original teacher returned from her maternity leave at the beginning of my senior year, she changed my grade in the previous semester's class from a D to an A+ after reviewing my assignments. So my revenge was achieved. Also, that grunt substitute was never asked to return to my school district as a substitute for the rest of her teaching career. OP, good on you. That substitute sounds like an absolute nightmare. It honestly sounds like she hates kids. Like, why did you become a substitute teacher just to bash on other people's work? Like, I get it. As a teacher, like, you might not like the subject of everything that you grade. However, like, you shouldn't take that out on your students. Like, grade them on the content of their work, not on your personal likes and dislikes. But good on you, OP. I'm sure you made life a living hell for her while she was there. Our next Reddit post comes from Independent Let 7688, titled Taking the High Road and Letting Toxic Parents Orchestrate Their Own Downfall. Okay, so a group of 4 to 5 mothers have actively tried to exclude my 8-year-old daughter. Their children are her best friends. The children love my daughter, and when she comes to school, they all run towards her to hug her and say hello. Basically, she's the popular girl in the class, and she dislikes all the attention, but it gives her the power to stop bullying. And she does. She has refused to play with anyone who bullies and made an effort to play with the kids that have been being bullied. So the bullying in her class has more or less stopped amongst the girls. However, some of the mothers have taken a dislike to her, or perhaps me, maybe. So they have refused to invite her to one of the other girls from their group whose mother that I'm actually friends with to events like birthdays, despite their own kids literally begging for them to invite my daughter. She has also been invited once, and the children's mother told the child to disinvite her. Unfortunately, there's always an excuse to say no to playdates. Despite this, the kids are still friends though. I have chosen to take the high road on this, so I always tell the girls that they're always welcome at my place when they ask. Sometimes they have asked me to call their parents as they know that they don't have any plans, and I have done so and told them that unfortunately their parents had said no. When they've asked why, I tell them to ask their parents. A couple of times, these parents have actively chosen for their kids to be the only one left at our school aftercare rather than just coming home with us instead. My daughter's birthday is coming up, and I asked her how she wanted to celebrate and with who, and of course, she chose her friends. So I texted the group and asked for a play date, not mentioning that it was her birthday or that I was taking them to the most popular indoor playground that's quite expensive. All of them had excuses apart from my friend's daughter. After they declined, I answered, "Oh, what a shame. We were going to go to this playground. Your daughter really seemed to want to go and couldn't remember that you guys had any plans. She must have forgotten." One of them actually backtracked, and I know for a fact that the others had huge tantrums at home. I'm guessing this, along with everything else, is making their kids lose all respect for their parents. I hear from my daughter that her friends are growing more and more resentful of their mothers. I mean, this is the sort of thing that they will never forget or forgive. I have, of course, told the children what a shame it is and that I would have loved for them to come. In 2 to 3 years, their mothers will no longer hold any power over who they play with or where. I'm guessing I'm going to be seeing their kids a lot more than they will, and I will go out of my way to display good behavior in front of them, like I continue to encourage in my daughter. Yeah, OP, it really makes me wonder why their parents would act like that. Like, at the end of the day, don't you just want your kid to be happy and be friends with other, like, good kids? It sounds like you're raising your daughter to be a really nice, respectful, kid, and that's great. Wouldn't you want, if you were a parent, wouldn't you want your daughter to be friends with good kids like that? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand the pettiness here, OP, but good for you. It's good that you're teaching your kid good values, and hopefully the other kids see that also. And yeah, hopefully you do see them a little bit more when they get older. Our next Reddit post comes from Queen Kush 420, titled, "My mother-in-law's petty revenge against her cheating, lying son." Around this time last year, my mother-in-law and father-in-law came to me and my husband and told us that unfortunately their house was getting foreclosed on. The reason for this is a reason for a whole other post. We said, of course they can move in with us. We wouldn't have it any other way. My father-in-law was diagnosed with a fatal disease called idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis around the same time last year. He was only given 2 to 5 years, so again, there was no question as to them moving in except for when. Over time, they finally decided to move in just before Thanksgiving in November. I found out that my soon-to-be ex-husband was cheating on me in early September. I was then asked if his parents could still move in, and I said of course. I'm not going to punish them because he can't keep it in his pants. They are completely on my side and will engage in polite conversation with him, but that's about it. Here's where I should say that yes, he does still live in the same house at the moment because his name is on the deed for the moment. We have an agreement for our divorce settlement, but he refuses to leave because he'll be homeless because his mistress didn't even want him. Also, our daughter is autistic and we have to transition her slowly, otherwise risk a complete meltdown that she might not recover from. This is a less than ideal situation, but I don't mind. One thing that really set my mother-in-law off one day, a Tuesday to be honest, was that my soon-to-be ex-husband asked his mom for $20. He told her that he needed to put gas in his car. We only have one vehicle between him and I, and from that Tuesday evening, he borrowed the money until Thursday. When he got paid, he didn't take the car, and the gas was almost on E the entire time. That Wednesday, he went out with his mistress all day. That Thursday evening, I mentioned the gas situation to my mother-in-law. That's when we figured out that he lied to her about needing money for gas just so he could go be out with his mistress again. So one evening, my mother in law and I were trying to figure out something for dinner. My soon to be ex husband is a very picky eater, so I have learned over the past 15 years to only make what he will eat. So while we're thinking of a meal to make, I mentioned that he wouldn't eat it. My golden angel of a mother in law said, I don't care. I'm mad at him so he can fend for himself. Ever since then, we try to come up with meals that we know he won't eat just so he can fend for himself, knowing full well that he'll just go starve or go out and get fast food. It's small, but it's our petty way of getting revenge on him. And honestly, now, I really don't even care enough about him to care about petty revenge anymore, but I love it for my mother in law. Oh, and since September, my best revenge is that I've lost 60 pounds and I'm almost halfway to my goal weight. That is the best revenge. Have a wonderful day and stay petty, my fellow potatoes. OP, congrats on your weight loss journey. They say that the best revenge is a life well lived, and it sounds like you're well on your way towards that. It just sucks that your daughter and, mother-in-law kind of have to suffer because this guy is just a complete butthole. But good for you, OP. I hope whatever comes next for you is much better and brings you so much more happiness than this guy ever did. That was Reddit After Hours, bringing you r/PettyRevenge. Thank you all so much for listening, and if you like these videos, like and subscribe as we post a new Reddit video almost every single day.